Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video, and we have a massive earth-shattering PvP update. This could have the most implications of any change we have seen thus far to Dragonflight. It's going to be a big discussion, and there have been numerous class changes that happen weekly, sometimes daily, seems like sometimes hourly. And if you want to stay up to date on those changes so you know exactly what's going on with your class and you're always making the right decision to enhance your gameplay when it comes to World of Warcraft, then do make sure to hit the subscribe button, as it is just going to let you know when my videos go live so you never miss a single update. And I am working diligently to be an amazing resource for you for that reason on my long-term goal of getting to 100,000 subscribers, and would greatly appreciate your support. So in this recent round of changes, we saw a bunch of renames to talents, a lot of significant buffs to damage spells. I see a lot of damage increases towards Frost Death Knight, improvements towards Balance Druid, introducing new effects to existing talents. And I just spoke in my previous video about the Wild Mushroom returning. So it seems like in this recent round of updates that there have just been another set of improvements made to all of these classes. And if you want to see them more specifically, definitely check out the update videos. This is more of a summation and just showing you the volume and the amount of changes that are consistently going into the classes at this point moving forward into Dragonflight. It seems like they are starting to get into a more solid position, at least when it comes to the warrior class when I was reading through these, as locking them in. And I'll have this article linked in the description down below as well if you want to be looking into any of the specifics yourself for these changes. A lot of these you may already know. Some of them are new buffs, something like Dark Ascension for Shadow Priest coming down from 2-minute cooldown to a 1-minute cooldown, giving it a lot more of a distinct decision between itself and Void Form, which is going to be awesome. So very exciting changes overall for a lot of the classes moving forward, and I'm curious to see your thoughts on them. Let me know in the comments down below if you feel like your class is missing out on something. What's it going to take to enable your class to be the best that you would like it to be? But as we've scrolled through basically all of these changes, we're going to get to the big juicer paragraph here that you can see is like a giant essay about PvP. It seems like this is now the time as a PvP player. Developers note, greetings gladiators. With the endgame realm on beta that spun up last week and the beginning of more focused testing on max level PvP, we wanted to discuss some of our thoughts on crowd control in PvP going into Dragonflight. The amount of crowd control that classes have access to has progressively increased in the past few expansions. This will be even more prominent in Dragonflight, with talent trees providing the option to spend talent points into heavy utility. We recognize that crowd control is a point of concern for players in PvP. We recently added a PvP talent precognition to help casters deal with interrupts as another way to help players handle crowd control. This is something that I've covered in a previous video, but basically if you fake cast an interrupt, so start casting a spell and stop your cast and the enemy uses an interrupt, you'll get an immunity to CC and a bit of haste as well to amplify your casting speeds on top of that. Now they're adding in another mechanic. This is the big deal one, the earth-shattering one. We will be introducing that you will see in this week's build is increasing the power of the Gladiator's Distinction. This is the 2-set bonus when you wear 2 PvP trinkets. In addition to its current effect of providing additional stamina and primary stat, the bonus will now also provide a 15% reduction of incoming crowd control effects. With this added built-in bonus, we will also be retiring the Relentless trinket, and current versions of the trinket will have a maximum level of 60 requirements. So this has big implications on the game. Not even just talking about just like, wow, CC is 15% less, but things like playing human plus relentless and these types of combinations of racial and trinket bonus are going to be removed from the game at this point. So being a human may not necessarily be the most advantageous choice anymore, because you'll be able to get a normal trinket and still basically get the relentless effect. This is going to have big impacts on how the game is played, and it really is important on how they tune the game for this to be a successful and an improvement change made to the game overall. Because I can already think here, if the game is like Shadowlands, right, and the pacing of the game is CC the healer, try and burst down a target before they come out of CC, and if they don't, they're going to heal to full HP. So if the CC is all reduced, you're just never going to hit the moment where you can end the game until dampening gets to an excessively high point where the healer just can't heal the target back to full health anymore and they're going to die. So this could have either be really damaging to the game or really beneficial to the game, depending on how they tune the power of damage during cooldowns and the power of damage outside of cooldowns. I feel like a lot of content creators, myself included, have talked about how we would like some damage moved away from the cooldown window and outside of that, especially having played previous iterations of World of Warcraft Arena, and try to get to that more of an even pacing where everybody feels threatening at almost all durations of the match, rather than just a 3-second window every minute or a 5-second window every 2 minutes or something like that, where you're trying to close out the game. That kind of go play style that's been such a primary way of playing World of Warcraft, and shift it more to sustained damage. Like, I'm getting uptime, I'm landing a significant chain of interrupts, and I'm overwhelming the target, has kind of been lost over time as more cooldowns have been introduced into the game. So this is either going to be a really damaging change if that is not achieved, because this is just going to remove the window of being able to get kill opportunities before dampening. Or it could be an insanely good change, lowering CC overall, because the players are going to be more threatening without cooldowns. At this point, with my testing on the beta, it feels much more similar to how Shadowlands has been playing, where you get this big burst of a hit and try to get a little bit of instant CC on the healer during that burst of a hit, and then go back to kind of just trying to stay alive until you can set up that window again, where this type of change would be very damaging overall. So I'm very hesitant about this being a good thing or a bad thing at this point. It also means getting chain crowd control, so something like Dragon's Breath Polymorph. I'm not even sure if you'll be able to, especially with haste levels being so low as they are. You might not even be able to land a Dragon's Breath, because we just talked about how all mages get Dragon's Breath, right? Now, with haste being lower at the start of an expansion, and this, would kind of doubt that you're going to be able to chain crowd control like that, which is a big deal. Things like hunters are going to feel this, because they are basically the definition of the class that tries to freezing trap the healer and win in that window. They're like the epitome of that fantasy and that play style in PvP specifically, which is, I don't want that play style to completely disappear. I think having some classes that are based around chaining CC at a specific window and landing burst damage is great, and you want like a diverse range of different ways of playing and doing damage and timing your crowd control spread out amongst all the classes. I think it's not been great that all classes are effectively trying to do that, but some of them are better at it than others. So those are the ones that you only see. Thus, when jungle was the best comp at one time, or RMP was the best, and then those are just the only comps you see because they're the best at doing that strategy, because that's seemingly the only strategy that you can execute on to be able to win at the moment. So a lot of this depends on tuning. They've got to hit the tuning right. They have to shift the damage out of the cooldowns and into the windows outside of it more so. I think for this to have a positive effect on the game, the main positive effect is that this means there's more racial choice amongst the different races in World of Warcraft, because you won't necessarily have to be human. And you'll still get a PV trinket. I mentioned that, so there could be some creativity and some stuff that you could do with that, which is great. But I am very concerned about it. And now they say we will be continuing to analyze and evaluate how overall crowd control plays in PvP throughout the beta. Additionally, we are discussing some other options for future patches to further address the concern of crowd control, one being adjusting the PvP duration on individual abilities that many have not been changed for years. We are interested to see your feedback on that proposal. For now, we think having a reduction in overall crowd control will help have a healthier state of PvP. I mean, I'm often complaining when I'm getting like chain stunned or interrupted or silenced back to back, and there's things like Death Knights now get blinding, sleet, stun, and strangulate, right? So you get gripped in as a healer, you're running around blinded for 4 seconds, then stunned for 5, and then silenced for 5, and like there is now a lot of crowd control available to a lot of classes to chain together. So I can understand why they're considering this, but as my previous point that I've made, if your only chance to win the game is during that crowd control window, and now it's been reduced enough that it's not long enough to actually win in that window, it means that you're going to become reliant on dampening. So I don't know if they're intending on starting dampening sooner. We've got a solo shuffle tournament coming up this weekend, and dampening does start faster in solo queue PvP arena, and we'll get to see. Maybe that's just the best way of making PvP more fun. This will be like the best experiment to do it. Is dampening actually a bad thing, or does it make the intensity of the game more enjoyable? You start off with no dampening, try and set up your CC windows, but it's going to come in and start amping up by reducing healing overall until it completely overwhelms you, and maybe it's not necessarily a terrible thing for the game. This will be a great opportunity to see that in action. Or the other one, which is to do a lot of PvP specific tuning, to where damage during combustion for a fire mage is much lower, but maybe their ignite damage is buffed by, I don't know how much percent you have to do at this point, right? I don't have the numbers in front of me. So that their sustained damage on a target is a lot harder throughout a fight in PvP specifically. It is really the only way you could address this. And it's been brought up time and time again. And those are kind of the two ways of going about it, at least from my perspective. I've got big concerns. You have concerns. Let me know in the comments down below. Other than that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one.